Hello everyone, and welcome. I'm from the Technical Support Department at IDUC. Today, I'm going to introduce you to an extremely important function for IDUC HMIs in the NV4 software, the alarm log function. This isn't just a simple notification feature. It's a powerful tool for monitoring, recording, and analyzing unusual events that occur in your HMI system. In this video tutorial, I'll explain the various related parameters, what they are, and what they mean, and provide a practical example of how to create an alarm log and use it in a real application. We will cover many interesting features, such as automatically displaying a pop-up screen for immediate user notification when an alarm occurs, opening a reference screen to view more details or troubleshooting steps for a specific alarm, storing an alarm record in the HMI's memory so it can be reviewed later, saving all alarm data as a CSV file for further analysis in spreadsheet programs. We'll also cover other interesting capabilities, like triggering an audible buzzer or making the screen flash when an alarm occurs. Alright, so, without further ado, let's get started. Now, let's take a look at how to set up the alarm log function in the window NV4 software. First, go to the Configuration tab at the top. Then, select the System Setup group and click on the Alarm Log button. The Alarm Log Settings dialog box will then appear. Let's go through them one tab at a time. In the General tab, we'll configure the settings for data storage and general monitoring. Storage method. This setting determines what happens when the alarm log storage is full. There are two options. Fixed. If you select this, the system will stop recording new data once the alarm log storage is full. Rotate. If you select this, when the storage is full, the oldest data will be deleted to make space for new data. This creates a continuously updated, rotating log. Monitoring period x 100 ms. This parameter sets how often the system checks the status of the device and writes it to the main unit. The value can be set from 6 to 500, where 1 unit equals 100 milliseconds. A low value, for example, 6 means the system checks very frequently every 0.6 seconds. This is more responsive, but uses more system resources. A high value, for example, 500 means the system checks less often, every 50 seconds. This is suitable for alarms that don't need immediate, high-frequency monitoring. Monitor number of active alarms. If you check this box, the system will count the total number of alarms that are currently active, not yet recovered, or confirmed. It then writes this number to the destination device address you specify. When enabled, you can use this device address to display the live count of active alarms on an HMI screen. Monitor how many times each alarm has occurred. When you check this box, the system will count the number of times each individual alarm has occurred, tracked separately for each channel. This count is then written to the top device address you specify. Important note: if you use HMI, keep registers LCAR as the destination. These counts will be retained even after the main unit is powered off. This is very useful for long-term statistical tracking. Clear log data for recovered alarms. Check this box to have the system automatically delete log entries for alarms that have been recovered. The deletion occurs when the triggered device address you specify changes its state from 0 to 1. Enabling this feature helps save storage space by removing unnecessary log data. Monitor the state of each alarm. If you check this box, the system will monitor the alarm status for each channel and write that status to the corresponding bits of the top device address you specify. Bit 0. This bit indicates the alarm status. It is 0 when the alarm is inactive or has been recovered. It is 1 when the alarm is active. Bit 1. This bit identifies the first alarm to be triggered. It is 1 for the very first alarm that occurs. It is 0 for the second alarm and any subsequent alarms. Bit 2. This bit indicates if the alarm has been acknowledged. It is 1 before the alarm has been acknowledged. It is 0 after the alarm has been acknowledged. When this feature is enabled, you can use this device address in your control logic or to create more complex status displays on the HMI. Call pop-up screen. This is where you configure a pop-up window called an alarm screen. When an alarm occurs, the screen you define here will automatically appear. You must specify the screen number 1 to 3015 and the X and Y coordinates for its position on the main unit's display. This setting provides an immediate visual notification, ensuring users are instantly aware of important alarms. Number of stored data. This parameter sets the maximum number of alarm log records that can be saved to the main unit storage. The maximum capacity depends on your model. 5,520 records for models F to J1J, HG to J1J, HG to G5T, HG1G1P. 11,660 records for models HG5, G4, G3G to GV, HG4, G3G, HG to G5F. Adjusting this value determines how much alarm history you can keep on the device itself. Part 2. The Channel tab. Now, let's move on to the Channel tab. This is the core section where you will define how each individual alarm is monitored and managed. Source device address type. Here, you select the type of device address that will be monitored for the alarm condition. Word. If you choose this, device addresses are configured in blocks, where each block contains multiple channels. Bit. If you choose this, you will assign a device address directly to each individual channel. Number of blocks. This parameter sets how many blocks you will use to configure your alarms. Each block contains 16 channels. The maximum number of blocks available depends on the source device address type selected. Word type, up to 128 blocks. Bit type, up to 8 blocks. Increasing the number of blocks allows you to configure more alarms. Reference screen. Here you choose the type of reference screen to display when a user selects an alarm from the alarm list or alarm log and presses the ref button. You can choose between base screen, pop-up screen, or select not use if no reference screen is needed. This feature allows operators to instantly access detailed information or troubleshooting guides related to a specific alarm. Next up is the settings section. You can use the auto button to apply settings to all channels at once, or the edit button to configure each channel individually. Let's go over the parameters that you can edit for each channel. Source. This is where you specify the exact bit device, or a specific bit number within a word device that the system will monitor. The state of this source address is what triggers the alarm. Data. This parameter has two options. Store. If you choose this, the alarm data will be logged and saved in the main unit storage. It can then be viewed on the alarm log display or exported as a file. No store. If you choose this, the alarm data will not be saved. However, the system will still monitor the live status of the alarm. This is ideal for the alarm list display, which only needs to show currently active alarms. Alarm function. This allows you to enable or disable the alarm for this specific channel. Enable. The system will actively monitor this channel and log any alarms that occur. Disable. The system will completely ignore this channel. It will not be monitored, and no alarm log entries will be created for it. Level. This sets the severity level of the alarm. You can assign a value from 1 least severe to 8 most severe. This level is useful for prioritizing alarms, and can be used to filter them or display them differently on the HMI screen. NO or NC normally open or normally closed. This setting defines the alarm's trigger condition. NO normally open. If you choose this, the alarm will occur when the monitored bit changes from 0 to 1. Off to on. NC normally closed. If you choose this, the alarm will occur when the monitored bit changes from 1 to 0 on to off. Your choice of NO or NC should match the normal behavior of your sensor or the specific state you want to trigger an alarm. Lock or unlock. This parameter determines if an alarm will recover automatically or if it needs to be manually acknowledged. Unlock. If you choose this, the alarm will clear automatically as soon as the monitored bit returns to its normal state. When the problem is fixed, the alarm disappears on its own. Lock. If you choose this, the alarm will remain active even after the bit returns to normal. It stays on the list until a user manually acknowledges it by pressing the check button. This setting is useful for critical alarms that require an operator's attention before being cleared. Text ID. This is where you assign a text manager ID number from 1 to 32,000 for the message that will be displayed when the alarm occurs. You can create and manage all of these text messages in the Text Manager utility. Using text IDs helps you keep your alarm messages organized and makes them easy to edit. Reference screen No. If you selected base screen or pop-up screen in the main reference settings, this is where you specify the exact screen number from 1 to 3000 that will be displayed. This screen will appear when a user highlights the specific alarm and presses the ref button, providing them with more detailed information or troubleshooting steps. Part 3. The External Memory Device tab. Let's look at the third tab, External Memory Device. This tab is used to configure the settings for exporting the alarm log data to an external memory device. Batch. Check this box to set up the export of the entire saved alarm log from the main unit storage to an external memory device. The export process is triggered when the specified trigger device address changes from 0 to 1. Note: if a file with the same name already exists on the external device, it will be overwritten. Trigger device address. Specify the bit device or a bit number within a Word device that will be used as the trigger for the batch export. The export will begin when this bit changes from 0 to 1. File name. Specify the name for the exported file. Specify file name by value of device address. Check this box to use the value stored in a specific device address file name device address as part of the file name. Add device address data to file name. Check this box to append the value from a device address to the end of the file name. This is commonly used for adding a file run number. Add timestamp. If you select this, a timestamp will be appended to your file name. For example, if you choose the YY plus MM plus DD format, your file name would look like Onto to 50905. Set limit on files. Set the maximum number of files to be exported from 1 to 100. If this limit is exceeded, the oldest file will automatically be deleted. Output alarm level. If this box is checked, the alarm severity level will be included in the exported data. Real time. Check this box to export alarm log data to the external memory device in real time. The data is saved under the following conditions: every 3 minutes, or when 819 records have accumulated. If there are no new updates within a 3-minute period, no data will be exported. New data will be appended to the existing file until the file size reaches 256 megabytes. Trigger condition. Select the event that will trigger the real-time data export. Your options are: occurrence, when an alarm is first triggered; recovery, when an alarm recovers or clears; confirmation, when an alarm is confirmed acknowledged. File name. Add timestamp. Specify file name by value of device address. Set limit on files. Output alarm level. These settings are the same as those in the batch section. Immediate real-time output. Check this box to force an immediate data export whenever the specified trigger device address changes from 0 to 1. This is useful when you need to manually log the data at a specific moment. Part 4. The Options tab. Finally, we have the Options tab. This tab is used to configure audible alerts, such as the buzzer, and visual alerts, like screen flashing. Trigger buzzer when alarm occurs. Check this box to have the main unit's buzzer sound an alert whenever an alarm is triggered. When enabled, this provides an immediate audible notification. Screen flashing when alarm occurs. Check this box to make the main unit screen flash when an alarm is triggered. When enabled, the flashing provides an effective visual alert to get the operator's attention. Buzzer and screen flashing condition. Here, you can define the specific conditions that will activate the buzzer and screen flashing. All alarms. If you select this, the buzzer will sound and the screen will flash for every alarm that occurs. Alarms with the specified level or higher. With this option, you must specify an alarm level from 2 to 8. The alerts will only activate for alarms with the severity at or above the level you set. This allows you to filter notifications for only the most important alarms. Only first alarm. If you select this, the buzzer and screen will only flash for the very first alarm that is triggered. Subsequent alarms will not trigger new alerts while the first one is still active. This is useful for situations where you only need to be notified of the initial problem. Stopping the buzzer and screen flashing. This section defines the condition that will stop the buzzer and screen flashing alerts. When touching anywhere on the screen, if selected, touching any part of the screen will stop the alerts. When the check or all check button is pressed, if selected, pressing the check or all check button on the alarm log display will stop the alerts. When all alarms are recovered, if selected, the alerts will only stop after every active alarm has returned to its normal state. And that covers all the main settings for the alarm log function. For now, please press the close button so that the settings aren't saved. The next step is to display this data on the HMI screen. To do this, we'll use a part called the Alarm Log Display. First, go to the Home tab. In the Parts group, click Data Displays, and then select Alarm Log Display. Place it onto the screen. After that, double-click the part to open the Properties of Alarm Log Display dialog box. Now, let's take a look at the properties for the Alarm Log Display. Part 1. The General tab. You can press the Alarm Log Settings button to open the configuration window I explained earlier. Start line number. This setting determines which alarm will be shown as the first item in the display. The available range depends on your HMI model from 1 to 5520 or 1 to 11,660. When the screen loads, the list will begin with the alarm number you specify here. Sort. This sets the display order for the alarms in the list. Oldest first. Sorts alarms from the oldest to the most recent. Newest first. Sorts alarms from the most recent to the oldest. New and level newest first, then by level. This sorts by the most recent alarm first. If alarms occur at the same time, they are then sorted by their severity level. This helps operators find the most recent and critical alarms more easily. Focus. This sets the visual style for the row that is currently selected by the user. Reverse. The selected row will be displayed with inverted colors. Border. Border will appear around the selected row. This setting makes it easier for the operator to see which alarm is currently highlighted. Display focus on list after changing screens or occurring alarms. This checkbox means automatically place the focus on the alarm list after the screen changes or when a new alarm occurs. Display reference screen. Checking this box means automatically display the reference screen when an alarm occurs. Displaying alarms. Here, you can select which alarm statuses you want to show in the alarm log. Display, for example, not recovered and unconfirmed alarm. Alarms that are still active and have not yet been acknowledged. Not recovered and confirmed alarm. Alarms that are still active but have been acknowledged. Recovered and unconfirmed alarm. Alarms that have cleared but have not yet been acknowledged. Recovered and confirmed alarm. Alarms that have cleared and have been acknowledged. Choosing these options allows you to precisely filter what is shown on the display. First alarm display first alarm to first line on list. Check this box to always show the very first alarm that occurred on the top line of the list, overriding any other sort settings. Operate the alarm on list directly. When this box is checked, you can select an alarm by tapping it directly in the list on the HMI screen. If it's not checked, alarms can only be selected by using designated key buttons. Part 2. Log tab at Show Items. This section allows you to select which columns you want to appear on your alarm log display. The main options include: Title displays the header row for all columns at the top of the list. Occurrence time shows the column for when the alarm occurred. Recovery time shows the column for when the alarm recovered to its normal state. Confirmation time shows the column for when the user confirmed the alarm. For example, by pressing the check button, you can show or hide any of these columns by checking or unchecking the box next to each item. Show items detailed settings. After selecting which columns to show, this section allows you to customize the details for each column more deeply. Title. You can double-click the title field to edit the header text for each column. Width. This sets the width of each column, measured in characters from 0 to 40. Date. For any time-related columns, you can choose from various date formats. Time. Similar to the date setting, you can also select the display format for the time. Use Text Manager for title. If you check this box, you can use a text ID from the text manager as the column's header. This is very convenient when creating multi-language projects. Part 3. View tab. In this tab, you can customize the colors and visual appearance of various parts of the display. Plate color background. This is the background color for the entire area where the log list is displayed. You can click on it to open a color palette and select the color you want. Line color grid lines. This sets the color for the grid lines that divide the rows and columns in the log table. By checking the box, you can set a line color that is different from the background. Flange outer frame. This is the outermost border of the entire part. Here you can customize its foreground and background. Color, the colors of the frame itself. Pattern, the visual texture or pattern of the frame. Buttons, if you have associated key buttons like up, down, or check with this display part, this section allows you to customize their appearance. This helps ensure your buttons have a design that matches the log table. Coordinates and size. Finally, these are the basic settings for the part's coordinates: its X, Y position, and size, its width and height on the HMI screen. Part 4. The Format tab. This tab focuses on configuring the font style, color, and alignment for the entire alarm list. These settings allow you to design a display that communicates the status and importance of alarms as quickly and clearly as possible. Title font. Here you can define the font style for the header row. Line spacing. This sets the amount of space between each line of text. Size. This sets the size or magnification level of the text. Title color. This is used specifically to set the text color for the header row, which helps you clearly separate the title from the data entries. Color settings by level and status. This feature allows you to set the text color, background color, and flashing effect for each alarm based on a combination of its severity level and its current status. This gives you precise visual control, allowing operators to understand the state of an alarm at a glance. The settings are organized in a table that lists each alarm level from 1 to 8 across 3 distinct statuses. Occurred. The color style used when an alarm is first triggered and is active. Recovered. The color style used after the alarm's condition has returned to normal. Confirmed. The color style used after a user has acknowledged the alarm, for example, by pressing the check button. Change display colors of first alarm. This function is used to specifically highlight the first alarm, the very first alarm that occurs when no other alarms are active. When you check this box, you can set a unique text color, background color, and flashing effect that applies only to that initial alarm. Line height. This final setting determines the height of each row in the alarm list. This is very important if your alarm messages are long and need to wrap to multiple lines. There are 2 ways to set this. Specify number of lines. This method lets you define how many lines of text each alarm entry should have. The software will then automatically calculate the appropriate row height based on the font size and line spacing you've selected. Specify size in dots. This method allows you to set the exact height of each row in dots, for example, 52 dots. This gives you more precise control, but you will need to manually calculate how much height is needed to fit the number of lines you want to display. Part 5. The Option tab. This tab covers more specialized, additional settings. It has 2 main sections: reference screen settings and display block number. These options allow you to customize some of the more advanced functions of this part. This first section is for the reference screen settings. In this tab, you will set the X and Y coordinates to define exactly where the reference screen will appear on your HMI display. Display block number. This function is very useful for filtering which alarms are shown on this display, based on the block numbers you configured in the main alarm log settings. All. This option displays alarms from every configured block. Block number. This option lets you specify exactly which blocks to display. You can enter individual numbers separated by a comma, for example, 1, 3, 5. A range using a dash, for example, 1, 3, or a combination of both. Finally, there is the Place on the Top Layer checkbox. If you check this box, the alarm log display part will always appear on top of any other overlapping parts on the screen, ensuring it is never hidden from view. Part 6. The Comment tab. The main purpose of the Comment tab is for you to add your own descriptions or notes about the specific part you are configuring. This concludes our explanation of what each function is and how it works. Please press the Cancel button now so we don't save these settings. In the next section, I will show you an example of how to configure the alarm log function for a real-world application. In this section, we'll start a new project and set up the alarm log display. Let's start by creating a new project. Go to the icon in the top left corner of the program and select New. In the Select Product Series window, choose your HMI series and model. For this video, I'll select F to J. Then, click Next, and then OK. When the Screen Properties window appears, just click OK to create your first screen. Now that we're on the editing screen, go to the Home tab at the top. In the Parts group, select Data Displays, and then click on Alarm Log Display. You can then click and drag to draw the alarm log display onto the area of the screen where you want it. Once you've drawn it, double-click on the part to open its Properties window. In the Properties window, click the Alarm Log Setting button. A new window will appear. In this window, under Source Device Address Type, select Bit, because we'll be using a bit device for monitoring. Then, for the number of blocks, set it to 1. Next, click on the very first entry in the alarm list, and then press the Auto button located at the bottom left of the window. In the Auto Setup window that appears, set the source field to LMO. This will make the system automatically monitor the bits in sequence, starting from LMO, LM1, and so on. For now, leave the other settings in this window at their default values. Next, for the Text ID, click the button with the 3 dots to open the Text Manager. In the Text Manager, name the text IDs sequentially as Alarm 1, Alarm 2, Alarm 3, Alarm 4, and Alarm 5. Once that's done, select Alarm 1, the first item in the list, and click OK. Then, click OK again on the Auto Setup window. We are now back at the Alarm Log Settings window. You'll see that the information has been automatically configured. In the Alarm Function column, let's disable the alarms that we aren't going to use. Then, click OK to close the Alarm Log Setting window. Finally, click OK again to close the Properties window for the alarm log display. And with that, the basic setup for the alarm log display is complete. Okay, in this section, we're going to create some buttons to simulate alarms. This will allow us to test the alarm log display that we configured in the previous step. Let's start by creating a bit button. Go to the Buttons menu, select Bit button, and then draw it onto the area where you want it. Next, double-click the button to open its Properties window. For the Action mode, select Alternate. This mode will switch the bit between 0 and 1 each time the button is pressed. For the Destination device, set it to LMO. When you're done, click OK. Next, we're going to copy this button until there are 5 in total. To do this, hold down the Ctrl key on your keyboard, then click and drag the button to a new position. Once you have 5 buttons, change the destination device for each of the new buttons one by one, setting them to LM1, LM2, LM3, and LM4 respectively. Once you have finished creating the buttons, it's time to save the project. Go to the icon in the top left corner, select either Save or Save As, and then save your project file. After the project has been saved, go to the Online tab and select Simulator. The Simulator function allows us to test how the project works without needing to connect to a physical HMI. Please wait a moment for the Simulator window to appear. Now, let's begin the test. Press the buttons we created one by one, and observe the changes on the alarm log display. You'll see that an alarm entry appears corresponding to each button you press. This is the function of the alarm log display to record data for each alarm that occurs and save it to memory. When you're finished testing, you can go ahead and close the simulator window. And that was a simple example of how to set up and test the alarm log display. In the next section, I'll introduce some more advanced settings that are frequently used in real-world applications. In this next section, we'll dive into the more advanced settings for the alarm log function. I'll also highlight some of the most popular and frequently used configurations to help you get the most out of this feature. Let's start by double-clicking the alarm log display on our screen to open the Properties window. From there, click the Alarm Log Settings button. In the window that opens, let's go to the General tab first. This tab is used for the overall settings related to data storage and monitoring. I recommend checking the monitor number of active alarms box. This setting makes the system count all currently active alarms and stores that number in a device address that we specify. In this example, I'll use LDR0. We can then display this value on the screen to let the operator know exactly how many alarms are outstanding. Next, check the monitor how many times each alarm has occurred box. This function is very useful for preventive maintenance because it counts how many times each individual alarm has been triggered and stores that count in a device address we specify. For this example, I'll use LKRO. Using an HMI keep register ensures that this count is saved even when the HMI is turned off. Another very useful function is Call Pop-up Screen. Go ahead and check this box, then set the screen number to 1 and both the X and Y coordinates to 0. This setting means that whenever an alarm occurs, the HMI will immediately and automatically display pop-up screen number 1. We're doing this because we are going to design our main alarm log display on that same pop-up screen number 1. Next, let's go to the Channel tab. This tab is the core of the setup, where you'll define how each individual alarm is monitored. For the reference screen, select Pop-up Screen. Then, select the very first alarm in the list and press the Auto button at the bottom left. In the Auto Setup window that appears, set the source device address LMO and the reference screen number to 101. This configuration tells the system that we will be creating our pop-up screens for explaining the cause and solution of each alarm, starting from screen number 101 onwards. When you're finished, click OK. Back on the channel list screen, go to the alarm function column and disable any alarms that you are not using to prevent unnecessary system processing. Next, in the level column, let's change the severity level for a few alarms. Set alarm 3 and alarm 4 to level 2. And alarm 5 to level 3. We are doing this so we can test the severity-based notification functions later. Next up is the External Memory Device tab. In this section, I recommend checking the boxes for both real-time and output alarm level. This setting will cause the HMI to automatically save all alarm log data to an external memory device, like an SD card or USB drive, as a CSV file in real time. By also including the alarm level, the data becomes very useful for historical analysis later on. Finally, on the Options tab, to make notifications as effective as possible, especially when an operator isn't right in front of the screen, I recommend checking two boxes. Check Trigger Buzzer when alarm occurs for an audible alert, and check Screen Flashing when alarm occurs for a visual one. This provides both sound and visual notifications, making alarms much harder to miss. Once all the settings are configured, go ahead and press the OK button to save and exit the alarm log setup. And toward the bottom, let's also check the box for Operate the Alarm on List directly. This function allows a user to select and view the details of an alarm simply by tapping on it on the HMI screen, which is very fast and convenient. Next, let's go to the Log tab. This tab is used to define the details of the columns that will be displayed in the table. In the Width column, I'm going to adjust the values to make the display look clean and well proportioned. I'll set the following. Occurrence time is 15. Message is 20. Recovery time and confirmation time are 15. This number represents the width in characters, so feel free to adjust these values to best suit your alarm messages and screen size. Next, let's move to the View tab. This section is for customizing the overall visual appearance of the table, such as the plate color the background and the flange the outer frame. Feel free to adjust these colors to match the theme of your project. Now for the Format tab. This tab is very important for making the different alarm levels visually distinct from one another. First, set the title color for the header row to your preference. For the font size, I'm going to leave it at the default value of 16. Now, in the color settings table below, let's focus on the occurred status in the background color column. I'm going to set the background color based on the alarm severity level. To make them easy to distinguish visually, I'll set the following: Level 1 to yellow, Level 2 to orange, Level 3 to red. This setup helps operators immediately understand the urgency of an alarm just by looking at its color. Finally, we've come to the Options tab. Here, I recommend checking the place on the top layer box. This is a very important setting, especially if you use multiple, overlapping screens or layers in your project. It ensures that your alarm log display will always appear on the topmost layer and will never be hidden by other screens or objects that might pop up. Once all the settings are complete, press the OK button to finish configuring the alarm log display. In this section, we're going to customize the HMI screen to make our alarm log function more efficient and organized. Instead of having the alarm log display on the main screen, we're going to move it to a pop-up screen. This allows us to call it up only when needed and saves valuable space on the main screen. First, let's create a new pop-up screen. This will serve as a dedicated space just for our alarm log display. Go to the project window on the left-hand side. Then, find the pop-up screen menu, right-click on it, and select New Screen. The Screen Properties window will then appear. In this window, we'll configure the basic settings for our new pop-up screen. In the Number field, set the value to 1, and in the Title field, name it Alarm Log Function so we know what this pop-up screen is for. Then, click OK. OK, so now, we have pop-up screen number 1. Next, we're going to move the alarm log display that we created earlier over to this new screen. First, go back to base screen 1. Then, right-click on our alarm log display and select Cut. Next, go to the pop-up screen 1 that we just created. Right-click on an empty area and select Paste. You can then position the alarm log display so it fits nicely on our new pop-up screen. The default alarm log display comes with several standard buttons, including a delete button. However, in some systems, we might not want general users to be able to delete the alarm history. Instead, we'd prefer to give them a way to see additional reference information for a selected alarm. Therefore, we're going to change the function of this button. Right-click on the alarm log display and select Ungroup. This separates the individual components of the display, which allows us to edit each button independently. Next, double-click the Delete button to open its Properties window. In the Properties window, on the General tab, find the Key Type setting and click the Browse button next to it. The Key Browser window will appear. In the box on the left, select the category Alarm Display. Then, in the box on the right, select the Reference function. This is the command that opens the reference screen for the currently selected alarm. After making your selection, a confirmation message will ask if you want to change the button's label. Click Yes. Then, click OK to close the Properties window. Our Delete button has now been successfully changed into a Reference button. Next, to give the operator a quick overview of the alarm status, we're going to create numerical displays to show two key pieces of information: the number of currently active alarms and the total number of times each alarm has occurred. Go to the Data Displays menu at the top, select Numerical Display, and then draw it onto an empty space on our pop-up screen. Double-click the numerical display you just drew to open its settings window. In the Display Device Address field, select LDRO, which is the device address we previously set up in the alarm log function to store the count of active alarms. Then, click OK. Next, we will create the displays for counting how many times each individual alarm has occurred. To do this, copy the numerical display we just created and paste 5 more of them. Then, arrange them neatly on the screen. Next, you'll need to double-click each numerical display to edit its display device address. Please set them in the following order. Set the first one to LKR0, set the second one to LKR1, and so on, until the last one is set to LKR4. To make it easier to test our alarm system, We're now going to create a bit button to simulate the trigger for each individual alarm. Go to the Buttons menu at the top, select Bit Button, and then draw it onto our base screen. 1. Double-click the bit button you just created to configure it. For the action mode, select Toggle, which will switch the state between on and off with each press. For the destination device address, set it to Elmo, which is the address we're using as the trigger condition for our first alarm. And to make the button visually reflect the actual alarm status, under the View Switch Method section, select Device Address and set it LMO as well. Finally, click OK. Next, copy this button until you have a total of 5. Then, edit the destination device address and View Switch method for each new button, setting them to LM1, LM2, LM3, and LM4 respectively, to match the trigger conditions for all 5 of our alarms. Finally, copy these 5 simulation buttons and paste them onto base screen 1, replacing the old buttons that were there. Next, let's create the pop-up screen that will serve as the reference for our first alarm. Go to the pop-up screen menu in the project window on the left, then right-click and select New Screen. When the Screen Properties window appears, please set it up as follows. In the Number field, set it to 101, set the width to 400, and the height to 200. Then, click OK. OK, so now, we have pop-up screen 101. Next, we're going to add some text to specify which alarm this screen is for. Go to the Drawings menu at the top, select Text, and then draw it onto the pop-up screen 101 we just created. In the Properties of Text window that appears, enter Detail of Alarm 1 into the text field, and then click OK. In a real project, this is where you could add detailed information about the alarm or provide specific troubleshooting steps. To speed things up, instead of creating each new pop-up screen one by one, we're going to use the duplicate screen function to make a copy of the screen we just finished. In the project window, right-click on the pop-up screen 101 that we created and select Duplicate Screen. The Duplicate Screens window will appear. Please configure it with the following settings. For the screen number, select 101, which is the original screen we want to copy. For the number of copies, set it to 5, and then click OK. The program will now automatically create the new pop-up screens, starting from number 102. Your next step is to go into each of the newly created screens from 102 to 105 and edit the text. Please change them to Detail of Alarm 2, Detail of Alarm 3, and so on, up to Detail of Alarm 5, respectively. Alright, we have now prepared everything: the alarm log screen, the reference button, and the destination reference screens. It's time to test how it all works together using the simulator. Go to the Online menu at the top and select Simulator. When the simulator window opens, try pressing the buttons we created on base screen 1 to simulate an alarm. You'll see that when an alarm occurs, the alarm log pop-up screen we set up earlier appears automatically, showing the currently active alarm. Try pressing the other alarm buttons to see how they work. You'll notice the alarm list updates instantly. On the right side of the screen, you can also check the data we set up. Both the number of active alarms and the individual counts for each alarm will update in real time. And now for the most important part. Try selecting an alarm from the list, and then press the reference button that we modified. Excellent! You'll see that the pop-up screen with the details for that specific alarm appears. It's on this screen that you can provide detailed information about an alarm and its troubleshooting steps, giving the operator exactly what they need to know right away. When you're satisfied with your testing, you can go ahead and close the simulator window. That covers all of the setup and testing. Next, feel free to try customizing the project to your own requirements. After that, we'll test it by downloading the project file to a physical device. Now that we've successfully downloaded the project to the HMI screen, we're going to test the actual functionality of our alarm log display. Alright, let's simulate a situation now by triggering an alarm in our system. Please keep an eye on the HMI screen. The moment an alarm is triggered, you'll see the alarm log pop-up window appear automatically. At the same time, the buzzer will sound and the screen will flash to clearly notify the operator. Stopping the audible alert and the screen flashing is very easy. You can simply touch anywhere on the screen, and the notifications will stop immediately. Alternatively, you can press the stop buzzer and screen flashing button on the alarm log display. Feel free to trigger the alarms and stop the notifications as many times as you'd like to get familiar with the operation. Next, let's go over how to manage the alarms in the alarm log display. Try selecting any alarm in the list by tapping on it. Then, we'll test out the different command buttons. Let's start with the reference button. When you press it, a reference screen will pop up. This screen provides more detailed information about the cause of that specific alarm, or it might contain instructions and steps for troubleshooting. This is very useful for helping the operator resolve the situation quickly and correctly. Next is the check button. This button is used to acknowledge that you have seen and reviewed a specific alarm. When you press it, the system records the confirmation time in the alarm log. This serves as proof that the alarm has been attended to and is either being resolved or has already been fixed. In this next section, we're going to look at how to get the saved alarm log data from the HMI onto our computer. To do this, we'll be using the Data File Manager software, which is a convenient tool that helps us manage files on IDOC devices. First, let's open the Data File Manager program. When you launch it, the connection settings window will appear automatically. Let's configure the connection with the following settings. In the Target Device field, select HMI. Then, in the Port field, choose Ethernet as the connection method. After selecting Ethernet, you should see a list of HMIs on your network appear. If you don't see your device, press the search button to scan again. Additional tip: if the search still doesn't find your HMI, double-check the network adapter field to ensure you've selected the correct active network card. Once your HMI appears in the list, select it, and then click the Connect button. After the connection is successful, you will see your HMI device appear in the folder pane on the left. Click the plus sign next to it to expand it. You will then see the drive for the external memory device you've plugged into the HMI, for example, USB1 or SD. Expand that drive. Inside the drive, you'll find a folder named HGData01, which is the default folder for data storage. Select this folder and expand it as well. Finally, look for and select the folder named Alarm Log, which is where the alarm log files are specifically kept. When you click on it, you will see your alarm log file, which will have a CSV extension. Once you've found the file you want, getting it onto your computer is very easy. Simply right-click on the desired CSV file and select Upload Files and Folders. A Browse for Folder window will appear. Choose the location on your computer where you want to save the file, and then click OK. The Data File Manager will then upload the file from the HMI to your computer. Alternatively, an even more convenient method is to simply drag the file from the program window and drop it directly into a folder on your computer. Drag and drop. After the upload is complete, go to the folder where you saved the file and open that CSV file to take a look. You will find that all of the alarm data, including the occurrence time, message, recovery time, and confirmation time, is recorded in a table format that is easy to work with. And just like that, you can now easily take the alarm log data from the HMI to analyze it or create reports on your computer. And that's all for this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in our products, have questions about various functions, or need additional assistance, please contact us directly or get in touch with your local distributor. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a like to encourage us to create more videos. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with our latest news and content in the future. That's all for today. See you in the next video. Goodbye.